Hi Cancers, and welcome to your reading for July 2019. My name is Melanie. This is a reading for Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising sign people. It's a general reading, so of course it may or may not resonate. So just take what you like and leave the rest, and let's just dive right in. So I use 5 cards for a monthly spread. The first card along the back there representing the past, any past energies which may be a factor for this month. You guys have the Knave, otherwise known as the Page of Cups. The second card being about July, current issues, current situation this month. You have the Knight of Swords. The third card being any possible obstacles that may show up this month. You have the Queen of Swords. The fourth card being about any possible helpful tools which may be of use this month. You have the Two of Swords, and finally the outcome card for the month. You guys got the Knave, otherwise known as the Page of Swords. And that final card there lying down, that's from a different deck of cards that I use more like oracle cards. And that card represents sort of the overall theme for the month that hopefully, theoretically, ties everything together. And the card that came through for you guys is called Magpie, and that represents spoken word. And I'll be reading from a booklet about that card specifically at the end of the reading. So, diving right in, straight away I see, and hopefully you can see as well, that 4 out of 5 of your cards for the month of July, Cancer, are swords cards. The Suit of Swords is to do with air signs, so Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. The swords are about thinking, intellect, beliefs, ideas, thoughts, words, communication, very much. Truth, conversations, worries, matters of the mind. So we're sort of really dominant on matters of the mind this month. The first card there is the cups representing emotions, but also you have 4 out of 5 cards are court cards. Court cards can represent individuals or not, but they can represent people in your life, or people who embody the energies of that card, or who are actually the star signs of those cards, like I said, air signs. And each of the cards too, the Two of Swords, not in this deck. In this deck you can't see a person in that card, the Two of Swords, but in say a traditional deck of tarot cards, there is a single person in that card. So you sort of, what you see there, 4 out of 5 cards have a single person in the card, and if we were looking at a different deck, it would actually be 5 out of 5 cards have a single person in each card. Just kind of noticing that and wondering what that's about, if this is very much about you, and obviously it is, but there is a focus solely on you this month, rather than necessarily dealing with no, I'm just thinking differently, necessarily dealing with people, or the flip side, this can be all about a person or people in your life that you're dealing with, heavily focused on some sort of interaction or communication with other people. Anyway, we'll just see, shall we? So starting with the past energy, the Knave of Cups, otherwise known as the Page of Cups. So pages are quite young energies of the court cards. They're sort of the first. They're quite young. They often represent, they can represent children or teenagers, but having that just kind of youthful energy about things, starting out in the world, learning new things, studying new things, being very curious in the world, very creative. This card, the Knave of Cups, can represent creative beginnings. It can represent synchronicity, being that kind of youthful young energy. This can be about also getting in touch with your inner child, fulfilling some basic needs, being very playful, having a lot of fun, following dreams and your imagination on a project, but a very useful, helpful kind of energy. Very affectionate, very charming, someone who's not sort of something that's new, not very experienced on something, and still working on that, developing their self, developing their character, developing their kind of personality, This card, like I said, can be about creative beginnings, and that you may have been interested or drawn to something to do with the arts, something to do with kind of magical elements, and you were focusing on that. You were learning something new in some way, and kind of developing good ideas in whatever new thing that you were learning or studying about or meditating on. Knaves also can represent messages and being messengers, messages from the universe. So, it's possible that you felt inspired in some way, which seemed very random and out of the blue, and you felt like it was a message from the universe to say embark on something new and creative, and you kind of you dove into it with this kind of youthful abandon of, say, a new project or something that you're working on. I think it was possibly something creative and very fun for you, or you're certainly very drawn to it with that kind of playful energy. So somehow that relates to what's happening this month, because going from the cups, like I said, suddenly you're into the swords. Suddenly we're jumping from the cups are, matters of the heart, feelings and relationships and connections and emotions and stuff like that, and into something much more to do with the head and thinking. So coming into this month, you have the Knight of Swords. Knights have a very different energy from knaves or pages. They are older, a little bit older. They're still young. Typically, the court cards of the knights, they're swashbucklers, they're adventurers, they're cavaliers, they're chivalrous, romantic. They're very revolutionary. They bring with them this kind of revolutionary energy of change and movement. They're defenders. They're transformers, transformers of experience. So here we have the Knight of Swords, and it's like you are charging into something this month. You are not holding back. You suddenly believe in something very deeply and you're willing to fight for it, or someone who has this kind of energy. This Knight of Swords brings with it the energy of fast movement, being an expert, skillful at what he does, or what she does. This is kind of this courageous energy of fighting very much for what you believe in, and sort of charging right in, and having this, being an agent of change, expanding your thoughts, being much more creative, wanting to rescue, say, possibly a damsel in distress, or defend something or someone that you believe in very much. So it's like now, in the past, you started on some sort of new creative endeavour or creative project, or you kind of went into it with, you're very new, very fresh, very keen, very young energy, very playful, and now you've kind of gone right, like, I get it now, I know what I'm doing, I believe in this, and I'm gonna, and maybe there's some resistance from around you, and you're going, nah, I'm gonna defend this now. I feel more experienced in it, I feel more solid in it, and I'm just gonna rush in, and stand up for what I kind of believe in. And this is the energy of problem solving and really getting in there to sort something out, using your intellect, using logic, being very eager and very keen to do that. I think just to be careful with not rushing in too quickly and making sure you're aware of all sides of the story, I guess, if that is something that needs to be taken into account. Possibly just need to kind of brainstorm and think things through before just sort of rushing out there to fight for what you believe in and defend something that very strongly, when you believe in something, you have, it's kind of like this, belief around an ideology, say that you have something that you are very sure is right, or certainly very sure is right for you, and you are becoming very opinionated about it, and you're communicating about it, you're thinking about it, and you are defending it. So The third card along, representing what may be an obstacle this month, this is all stuff in the head. This is all matters of thinking or of communication. And then we have the Queen of Swords, another swords card. There's a lot of swords. I'm just looking at actual swords. I'm just thinking, if we were to think through, what is a sword? A sword is a tool. It's a weapon. It can cut things. It can cut through things. It can hurt things. It can carve out things. It can scare people, but it can protect you. Double-edged sword, so we I'm just thinking of the concept of a sword and the object of the sword and what a sword means physically and practically, let alone what it means in terms of the tarot. So what may be an obstacle this month? Something to look at, be wary of, or just to be mindful of, I'm going to say, is the mindful, because we're dealing with matters of the mind. You guys have the Queen of Swords. It's interesting because we have this progression. We start with the Knave, we go to the Knight, then we go to the Queen, and I was kind of thinking, oh, is the King going to pop out here? But no, right at the end we go back to the Knave energy again. But anyway, interesting. Okay, so you have the Queen of Swords. She is sharp. She is a quick thinker. She's perceptive. She's very confident. She has wisdom. She has strength coming from herself. A very intelligent woman, or the energy of intelligence doesn't necessarily have to be or embody a woman, but the Queen of Swords can present with like this cool, calm exterior. Really inside she's pretty fragile, but she can be blunt, I think, can lack warmth, can easily pick and find faults, can belittle, can be like, well, I'm above you and I've gone through all this shit. She's gone through a lot. Potentially she has an energy of aloneness, of loneliness, of loss, of being barren. So she can potentially be very overly ambitious, perfectionistic, a bit too assertive / aggressive with her words. So maybe just be wary of your words, what words you're using when you are fighting for what you believe in with this Knight of Swords. Be careful of being too harsh, too cutting with your words, or be careful of someone around you who is like that, and just protect yourself a bit. Or reflect on where that's coming from, whether that's within you or someone else. I think when we slip into this kind of opinionated state of slight arrogance, it's because on the inside we are fragile, we are insecure, we are worried about something, we're nervous about something, and we want to guard against that, or we're overwhelmed by those feelings. So we kind of cut off the heart and go into our head without which is kind of the opposite of acting holistically, isn't it? It's kind of severing a part of yourself. The Queen of Swords can represent a counsellor, someone who offers you advice, therapeutically or otherwise. But in terms of this card being in a position of an obstacle, I would say be wary of. Obviously, if you see a therapist and they're great for you, that's awesome. But perhaps just this card is just saying to be wary of someone who wants to give you unwarranted or unsolicited advice, or comes down on you quite harshly. Who may be judging you, perhaps, or you are judging yourself in some way. So just be mindful of a degree of harshness in the words, perhaps this month. In the position of what may be helpful this month, you guys have the Two of Swords. Okay, so typically the Two of Swords is a card of sort of indecision. I would say, and a bit of a struggle with two opposing beliefs or ideas that are causing a degree of conflict, whether inner conflict or outside of you. There's kind of a struggle to maintain balance with this card, to maintain the balance of opposing parts, or sometimes being in between things, being at a stalemate, or being in a truce kind of thing. So there's a thing about balancing here, and balancing equal parts. Typically this card too is about, or sometimes it's about being blind to something, and potentially having, when we are blind to something, or when we are blindfolded to something, we can't see. We can't see what's ahead of us. We can't see. We either can't see options, or there are so many options that we're kind of clouded, and we're stuck in the middle and afraid to kind of move sometimes. Being blind to sort of possibilities. I think this card, though, this is in the position of what may be helpful. Perhaps it is suggesting to have faith, have blind faith in something, to just hold the balance of possibilities. There is considering this card is a card of sort of balancing and kind of stuckness, and being perhaps at a stalemate or at a truce or something, then what you need to do is make a decision. When we make a decision, we sort of engage action. And then considering we have the Knight of Swords card there, who's all about action and movement and change and charging forth. I'm just thinking it through. If you come up against a struggle in terms of a choice or an option, I would suggest getting really clear on all the facts, perhaps. Have faith in the universe. Seek help from others if you need to get a different perspective on things, but then again, be wary of who that is and what they say, with the Queen of Swords card next to you. So I'm almost wanting to say, just protect yourself a bit with this card, with the Two of Swords card. All may not be quite what it seems, so just hold tight, have faith, but then also maybe this is a time of, you don't need to make a decision, you just have to sit there in that kind of stalemate for a little bit, and balance things out, and don't let anyone push you into making a decision about something if you're still contemplating something. I don't think you are, though. I think you've made a decision, and you believe in something quite strongly. But then again, there is this kind of opposing beliefs or ideas. Maybe that's you and someone else. You have completely different ideas about something, and there's a bit of a stuckness about that. Somebody needs to make a decision, though. It sounds like you're very much fixed on what you believe in and what you want to do. The outcome card for the month is the Page of Swords. So here we go, the Knave of Swords, which is the Page. So here we go back into that kind of youthful energy again that knaves or pages represent. The Knave of Swords is a very sort of energetic, talkative, curious energy, that kind of youthful energy again, being very exuberant, being very kind of mentally restless, sometimes being a bit sneaky, a bit of a spy, kind of being a little bit vigilant about something, can be quite outspoken about something, but quite good at handling any kind of controversy that comes up. So this is a card again, with that young energy of kind of going into that kind of curious childlike state, I would say, or not childlike, but curious state about something that you want to investigate. Again, you know, the Page of Swords or the Knave of Swords is very sort of energized and wanting to just go out there and swing your sword around, kind of like, woohoo, I've got this brilliant idea, I'm going for it, I've made a decision, or I'm warding off other people's kind of hoo-ha about it. But just be mindful of being a bit too defensive, still needing to learn some things. But this card does suggest that you have a degree of insight, and you still have this kind of playful energy about you, and certainly mentally, you know, which I think is good, to just still have that embodiment of that kind of youthful, transformative energy about whatever it is that you are kind of working on. Sometimes this card can represent a bit of feeling a bit worried about some things in your life. Some things that you may feel that you don't quite know about yet, things that are unseen or unknown, and you're wanting to, of course, get to the end, you know, find out the answers to things, but it's kind of like you're not meant to know right now. Just be careful. It's interesting that you don't have the King here. It's kind of like something is missing. There's still, you know, kings are, you know, that kind of mature, authoritative energy, you know, who really have mastered things and they know what they're doing. They are in a position of responsibility. They're wise. It's like you haven't quite got there yet with something. You're doing a lot of work on it though. There's a lot of mental activity around this. But still in July, there's still a degree of it still being kind of new and trying to get there, but still being in the early stages of something, I would say. The kind of the juvenile stages of something. So perhaps there's still a little bit of juvenile thinking around something that hasn't quite grown and developed in a solid way yet, but you're certainly getting there, I would say. Because this kind of, there's this past energy of lightness and airiness and youthfulness and playfulness, and you end with that too. So something that looks kind of very lighthearted and enjoyable in many ways in your life. But it's still something very new within you, or something that is around you, or that you've been working on, or a job or a project or some sort of creative enterprise. Still in the early stages, I would say. And still a lot of, like I said, thinking and ideas about it, or ideas that you very much believe in, but stuff needs to still be nutted out. It's not grounded enough. I'm thinking with all this air energy of the swords, bit of the cups there with the heart, but where's the groundedness? This is very top heavy or something. Top heavy, head heavy. Yeah, it's very head heavy. Where is the solidness of the pentacles? Where is the passion of the wand suits, the fire? There is kind of excitement here and energy, but it's all in the head. It needs to be perhaps more rounded into other areas of your life. Anyway, I feel like I'm rabbiting on. I'm just going to read now from the book about that card, Magpie, from a different deck of cards called the Dreamtime Reading Cards. Dreamtime is the Aboriginal Australian spiritual belief system. Beautiful cards, beautiful visually. I really love the meaning behind the words. So I'm just going to read now about magpie and spoken word. The magpie is a large black and white bird that has a bad reputation for swooping down on people passing by its nest. It's only for usually 6 to 8 weeks of the year, but oh boy, people are terrified of magpies in the swooping season. Its distinctive melodic song is often heard as the sun rises, and it is known as a very talkative bird, and it really is beautiful. Often the juvenile is raised in a group, which can be very loud and demanding on its parents as the young bird struggles to find its independence. Definitely the juvenile magpies just squawk non-stop, demanding food. It's only when they become adults that they have a beautiful, beautiful song to them. So the magpie is associated with chatter, gossip, and the power of the spoken word. It also reflects the struggle of the adolescent. Interesting! Adolescent. We have spoken word, all these swords cards here. We have the adolescent, the knight of swords, the two knaves you have there. Fascinating. Struggle of adolescence. The bird often visits to remind you that gossip, and more importantly, your reputation, is something that you must be mindful of. It warns against talking about other people and the damage that gossip can do. Talking with someone you trust can be very therapeutic. Typically would be the Queen of Swords, but there is some caution against that this month. But talking badly about others can be very destructive and hurtful. The magpie is always chatting to itself, to its offspring, and even to the other birds. It can indicate that there will be discussions or that you may be the topic of others' talk. The best thing to do is watch your words. Speak nicely about others and avoid idle chatter. I don't know. This matches. I swear this card came out for you after the tarot cards. It's just phenomenal. Spoken word, ideas, beliefs, communication, stuff to do with the head, your thinking. This is a major theme for you guys this month. Good luck with it, huh? Try to get a bit more balance. I think get out of your head, a bit more into the body, a bit more into the heart, a bit more connected to the universe, and good luck with whatever this is. Thank you for watching this. I'm very grateful that you've given it your time and attention. All the best for July, and I'll see you in August.